And you talked about writing this book on Dhoni. So, what everyone is so fascinated by Dhoni in that sense because it's a great captain, great character in that sense. What drew you to him and writing a book on him as well?
Well, I wasn't the one who, I mean, I was asked to write by it. But yeah, I mean, if given a chance, I would definitely love to write about, a person as enigmatic as Dhoni. And, but yeah, I mean, it's great to write about a man that everyone loves. And, there is a certain respect people have for him. I mean, there have been superstars before him. Sachin was a superstar. Virat Kohli is another superstar, but Dhoni is a very different kind of superstar in that there was no wicket keeper batsman. Forget a wicket keeper batsman come captain combination that was so successful.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So this is a player they don't call him once in a generation for no reason. He is a once in a generation player and who has captivated the imagination of a billion people, and he has led India to a lot of victories. He has changed the way Indian cricket is played. So there is a lot about him that needs telling, and because of the way he keeps himself, he keeps himself so isolated, and he is not really particular on giving a lot of interviews. So there is very little that people know about him, despite him being in the public eye for so long. For 15 years of his life, he has been playing cricket for India, and for a good decade, he led Indian cricket. But at the same time, there is so much privacy around him. There is so much enigma around him, and the things that he does, and why would he give Joginder Sharma the over in that final of T20 World Cup and all those. So there are a lot of those questions that people have when it comes to Dhoni, and in that book, I think I and Mr. Joy Bhattacharya, who is the co-author of that book,
Yeah.
we are trying to take some shots and answering those questions. Of course, it will be an effort at doing it, but let's see how it goes.
So, do you think that because he is so reserved and because he is almost, as you mentioned, he only gives out very few interviews, and there are only a few interviews that are still there which people actually can draw good information out of, is because we are so and that's the reason we like him so, in the sense that we want to know so much more about him, is because he isn't extravagant in his social media or in the way he presents himself. Does that almost connect us to this whole aspect of romanticism that, oh, there must be something more to him?
Yeah, I mean, you're very correct in saying that, because we raise our stars to a pedestal, all right, and we have done that all these years, okay, and he's a star, he's a leader who has led us to so many wins, okay, World Cup win, T20 World Cup, Champions Trophy. So he is someone who is the story of success, right? Coming from a small town in East India, and then through that, taking that route and all that. So his is a story that people want to know more of, not just because, look, he's a star who is hiding things, but also because, hey, how did he do it? Because there is so much inspiration in that story, right? I mean, of course, there have been people who have come from small towns and played for India and all that, but have had, like, did they get so much of success? No, they didn't, all right? And this man has served Indian cricket for so long and achieved so much success. But then there is also a certain humility. There is also, not very keen on giving interviews and all. So that aura is very attractive to people. And of course, everyone wants a piece of Dhoni, despite the fact that he has just retired.
Do you have a sense of why that may be? Do you feel it's because he's shown this admiration for the army and for India as a country, and he's always been very patriotic in that sense? It's like the intuition I'm sort of getting is that if he is the captain of the Indian cricket team, it's a very, very big and prestigious role. And he's probably thinking of that, I have to represent so many people. So it can't simply only be about me and me as a character. It has to be about the team. It has to be about them winning and doing well. Do you feel it's that element, or do you have some other theory?
No, yeah, I mean, it's largely the reason. I mean, he likes to soak all the pressure. Okay, he's someone who he's this person who is all this calm and composed all the times, and that of course goes a long way in helping the team act as calm and composed, because when the leader seems in control, everyone, the troop are, they know what their roles are. So that also helps. And he doesn't really think, as far as I understand, that there is much of a necessity to talk about a lot of things. And it's not that he's not someone who doesn't want to answer things. You see the press conferences and all that, and he's someone who's been asked the most pointed questions, and he always answers them in a very unique way of his own, and with a sense of humor and wit. So it's not that he's so reserved that he wouldn't talk. But yeah, he realizes that there are certain things inside the dressing room. He holds it very sacrosanct, and he doesn't want it to go outside. And that's very similar to the way he has lived his life. And he has, I guess, because of the fact that he has achieved so much of success with that philosophy in his life, he likes to keep his team the same way. So yeah, that's a lot of it. Has got a lot to do with the fact that he is a leader of the Indian cricket team. He was for the longest period, and I mean, he believed more than anything. He believed in getting the results. I remember after 2011, in the 2011 World Cup, if you remember, the only match that India lost was against South Africa. And that wasn't a match where India started badly. India had Sachin Tendulkar made a good 111, if I remember it correctly. And India were in a great position till the 45th or 43rd over, after which the wickets kept tumbling. Okay. And they could not make a huge score, which they should have had gone on to make. And after that, Dhoni is supposedly told his teammates that we are not playing for the crowds. Because what happened was that after that start, the crowd started cheering sixes, we want sixes and all. So the players got a little excited, and all these big hitters, Yuvraj Singh, Yusuf Pathan, they all went for the big shots, didn't come off, and that resulted in a collapse. Okay. And we lost that match, the only match we lost. So at that point, Dhoni said that, look, we are not playing here for the crowds. We are playing here for the country. So irrespective of what the crowd says, we want sixes or whatever, you need to keep that in mind. The focus should be on victory. And as it turns out, that was the only match that we lost in the tournament. So yeah, he is very focused with the process, and he, of course, doesn't like it when the team goes astray.
No, but that sounds almost so difficult to put forward, because when you are talking about that, you have to look at it in a much broader sense, and that you're playing for your country. But when you are there in the middle of the playing the sort of cricket that they were, and if the crowds are actually on top of them, it almost becomes intoxicating that you have to play for them, because it's so overwhelming. If you play at stadiums like the Eden Gardens, the Wankhede, which have massive crowds and a massive sort of noise. So, I'm just trying to wrap my head around how difficult it might have been, and how motivating is Dhoni that he's actually able to convince his troops to actually perform in the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where his personality as someone who is calm, composed, and in control is so important, or was so important to the Indian team in that period. Because, as I said, a captain leads best by example. So when you see the captain seems in absolute control of the state of affairs, you as a cricketer also know, okay, this is my role, this is what is expected of me. And you are not going to panic, because you see the captain, someone they have posited their faith in. Okay, he knows what he's doing. Even the asking rate is, say, 9 per over. He knows that things are in control. Or even if the team has 7 wickets in hand and just 40 to get, and they seem to be coasting along, if the captain doesn't panic, his troops would not panic, right? So that's where Dhoni as a figure was so important to Indian cricket, because look, we had our stars, and we had Indian cricket has been followed massively in the last 20-25 years. That's all right. But in this phase, in this period, it's because of the television boom, because of mobile phones, and everyone was involved in the game. So it is impossible to not feel pressure. Okay. But a good captain, a captain like Dhoni, he sort of separated that pressure, cauldron, that of a situation. He became the shield He's absorbed so much of it himself. So, the moment he starts panicking, everyone in the field would also begin to fidget, right? But that's what Dhoni did so well. He did not panic, even in the worst of situations. So yeah, that's why I think that's where he led by example. He's not someone who takes long meetings. Okay, we all know about that, and he's not someone who speaks a lot to the teammates and all. But it is what he does. It is how he conducts himself that is, of course, going to affect any youngster who enters a team. And you talk to cricketers who have played with him, and they would keep on reiterating the fact that his calmness had an influence over everyone around him. So that's why he was so important, and that's why he wasn't in the best of the forms when it was in the 2011 World Cup until the final. But his role was vital because he knew what had to be done. I mean, it was all very well planned, and he was always in control. He never seemed like someone that who is not in control, and that made the team believe. So that's what I think is so special about him.
So I was listening to this podcast. I think it was about Dhoni in that sense, and they were talking about this really interesting thing that I took away from that was that when he was playing for Ranchi, and then he knew this aspect that because he's playing for one of the smaller states, he's not going to be in, let's say, the Mumbai's or Tamil Nadu, so always going to get the attention. So he knew that for him to shine as a player and get represented in the Indian national team, he had to do something extravagant in that sense. That's why when you saw him, let's say, I'm not sure if he opened the batting of the game one down or something along those lines, he used to always play aggressive shots, even if there wasn't a necessity to that. Because he felt that because he was playing for Ranchi in that sense, and a smaller town which probably didn't get a lot of coverage in the Ranchi Trophy and other domestic trophies, that it had to be him who had to rise above, let's say, the ordinary. And that's why he never left his state, or he didn't leave his territory and go to another state to play Ranji Trophy.
No, I mean, part of it that is sort of, I mean, he like there was a chance where he could have represented Railways, but that didn't work out. So he represented Bihar in Ranji Trophy and then Jharkhand. And no, I mean, having talked to a lot of people who have played with him, that was his natural style. He was like from the time he was playing for his school in DAV Jawahar Nagar, he was the basher. All right, he would he scored opening the batting, he scored 200 runs and all those. So that was the style of his cricket. Okay, and he became popular because of those big hits, of course. But yeah, that it's not something that I think. I mean, of course, you cannot go into the mind of that person, but
yeah,
that was just the style of cricket he played. In fact, one of his Bihar teammates I was talking to a few days back, and he said that one thing about Dhoni was that he knew his limitations well, and one of his limitations was that he wasn't very good with his defense. All right, and when you're not very good with your defense, your only option left is to attack. And the attack was so ferocious that it used to get him a lot of sixes, it used to get him a lot of big runs. So that's what made him popular. I mean, even when he was not playing in the Ranji Trophy, Dhoni was a popular figure in a lot of these locally organized tournaments, right? So yeah, I mean, his like people were talking about him even before he represented India A, or even during his Ranji days. It wasn't about the fact that he came from Bihar or he came from Jharkhand. It was just the fact that he played in a very different way. I mean, we had seen bashers of bowling attack. We had Virender Sehwag who would score, 69 ball, 100 and all that. But this guy, it's not how far he used to hit the balls. It's about how hard he used to hit the balls. Just a few days ago, there was this report where Joy Bhattacharya said that when Saurav Ganguly first saw him and he had a conversation with Mr. Joy Bhattacharya, and he said that there is this player who plays chabuk ki tarah khelta. He plays this with a whip, that style was very peculiar to Dhoni, and that helped him rise through the ranks. I mean, it is very difficult to ignore that style. You can't take your eyes away. And look, especially when it is getting us out of success. Like if it fails, you're like, ye to, some guy who's trying to be unconventional and failing. But when you see someone who is unconventional and still getting success with those unconventional methods, you want to see how far this person is going to go with that unconventional method. And in the case of Dhoni, his batting style was never right out of a textbook or something. Never had the prettiest of techniques, but that is the X factor when it comes to someone like Dhoni. Even with his wicket keeping, it wasn't the most natural of wicket keeping styles that he had. Same with the batting, but like whatever he had, he was sure of his abilities, and it paid him dividends. And he chose the best stage that anyone, like if someone scores a century, say in a India West Indies match, or in a India Sri Lanka match, it's very easy to not remember it. Remember, Virender Sehwag, he scored his first ODI ton of 69 balls, okay? 69 balls, and that was in 2001 or 2000, I believe, in 2000 in fact, against New Zealand, okay? Now that's something revolutionary, right? Not everyone scores his first ODI century of 69 balls. Virender Sehwag did it, but how much do we hear about it, right? And that's because it came against New Zealand. While Dhoni's century, 148, he reached his century of 88 balls, which is, again, in front of Sehwag's 69. It's not, that great an effort if you put it in comparison. But it came against Pakistan, right? So you cannot ignore that by any measure. The fact that, and even his first Test century, same score of 148, again came against Pakistan. So it is very difficult to take your eyes off someone who shines with his unconventional methods on the big stage against a team as, like an arch rival like Pakistan. So yeah, those were the things that earmarked him for bigger things, and well, he lived up to all of it.
So do you feel that if Dhoni was, let's say, brought up in a place like Mumbai, in like the Maidans of Mumbai, where the coaches would totally be on his head that you have to play the straight drive and you have to play in a certain technique because that's how the batsmen have been trained to play. Like, how much of a Dhoni would we have had? Because we've heard a lot about his tennis ball prominence and how the helicopter shot really it came because there was a lot of Yorkers being bowled in tennis ball cricket, and he wanted to score off them, so he moved his front leg and tried to whip it in that way. So how much of an emphasis do you feel that if there was a proper coaching element to Dhoni, we wouldn't have the Dhoni we have today, because his wicketkeeper and his football coach were the same person, and so many other players really.
Yeah, I mean, look, that happened in his school, that he had a wicketkeeper and a football coach. Yeah, but what worked for Dhoni, I can't answer whether he would have survived had he been brought up in the Mumbai school of cricket. But the thing is that he was, as I said, he was unconventional from the beginning. And the good part is probably his coach at that point, because of the fact that he was getting success with that unconventional style, there was no attempt to tamper it. And why would you tamper something that is paying dividends, right? I mean, we see the batting of Steve Smith, okay? Steve Smith started off as a leg spinner, and, his batting technique, if you look at it, it is very weird all over the place, right? So I guess but the fact that all of these methods, since they have gotten them success, there was no need felt to ask them to change it. All right, and if you see later in Dhoni's career, he did change a few things about his batting style. It was when he came onto the scene, he would wield his bat very ferociously and all that. Now his bat is very still. Okay, he's almost waiting for the ball, and those are things that you change as per as the need arises. So he has changed his game to suit because look, when you're playing at say Ranji level or something, you're not analyzed that well, right? People are not going to sit with their laptops and try to study you. But when it comes to international cricket and the scrutiny that Indian cricketers and a star like Dhoni will have, I'm sure a lot of people worked out his initial batting style. But that is the brilliance of Dhoni, that he readapted, and he still continued with his success. So yeah, that's what is so special about him. And I don't think, and like, to answer your question, if he was, if he had grown up in Mumbai and playing in the Maidans of Mumbai, I'm sure someone must have tried to change his batting style. But like, one characteristic of Dhoni which is so fascinating is his self-belief. I'm not sure if he would have gone on to change that technique much, because he
Right.
knows from the very beginning of the Dhoni story, you see, he knows what he's doing. All right. So much of calm and control and composure that you see on the field, that's largely because of a great sense of self-belief that he has in his abilities and, in the process. So that way.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating stuff. Like, what? How do you see like people? How do you see his legacy would be? How do you see people? How do you think that people would remember him in the years to come? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line, would they
I
remember
mean,
him as? Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. How do you feel that they would remember him?
Of course, the most successful captain of India, as you know. I mean, look, like very recently, someone put out a tweet that he was the most influential Indian cricketer, and of course, a lot of Indians took a bit of a, they were not happy with it because they said that, hey, you do not know cricketers who came before him. And of course, there is a great history of great cricketers who influenced Indian cricket in a lot of ways. But a lot of Australian cricketers, they said, Dean Jones, he said that Dhoni won India trophies and that's what matters, right? So he would be remembered as that man that, like, the captain who led India to successes. I mean, Saurav Ganguly was a brilliant captain, leader of
Yeah,
men,
yeah,
but the trophies eluded him. We did not win the World Cup 2003, and a lot of. But Dhoni got home the trophies. At the same time, I mean, like as I said, that his batting will always be remembered. We did not have a very good wicketkeeper batsman until Dhoni. We tried so many. After Nayan Mongia to Mahendra Singh Dhoni, there were so many of them. They did not, for some or the other reason, they could not establish themselves the way Dhoni did. So now there is a very, the legacy is that he leaves behind a big vacuum, okay? Because he, like in this team that he leaves behind, he was not only a wicket keeper, he was a very formidable middle order batsman. And
mm,
not only a formidable middle order batsman, but the one who knew like how to bat with the tail like the back of his hands, all right. And also who knew how to finish matches. I mean, out of the 50 matches, 50 chases in which Dhoni has remained not out, India has gone on to win 47 of them. All right. So that tells how well he knew how to close matches. So as Dhoni leaves, okay, I mean, of course, there was a lot of noise with that. Now his reflexes have slowed down. When is he leaving and all of that? But as Dhoni leaves, we realize that we do not only lose a wicket keeper, we lose a very solid middle order batsman who had tons of experience, 10,000 runs. Okay. We also lose a very able, he was not, I mean, he was very generous in giving up captaincy to Virat Kohli before 2017 Champions Trophy, and, so that Kohli could build the team. But at the same time, he always maintains, and he maintains it from the beginning of his career, that being in the position of the wicket keeper, you're always the vice captain because you are the one who is in charge of setting the fields, informing the bowler how the batsman is thinking, how what the batsman is playing. So
mm,
he filled that responsibility very well. And of course, with the vast amount of experience he had and the success he had, Virat Kohli also, he loved going back to him and ask him for suggestions. So that is his legacy. I mean, we will realize the legacy of Dhoni as we see India struggle to come to terms with his retirement. I mean, of course, Rishabh Pant is a great, hitter of the ball, but he can possibly fill the role of a good batsman.
yeah.
But like, can he finish off chases like Dhoni? Can he bat with the tail like Dhoni? Can he, be as insightful as Dhoni from behind the stumps? All those things are the things that are going to be missed, and in that we'll realize the uh, legacy of Dhoni. He's not only a great leader but a great team man who contributed a great deal to the rise of Indian cricket. And as far as the impact of Dhoni is concerned, I would say it was different from superstars that preceded him and superstars that have succeeded him, in the fact that Dhoni is a major figure not only among men, he's a major figure among children and women, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason Dhoni's appeal is slightly different, in my personal opinion, from what of Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli is. Now, Sachin Tendulkar burst onto the scene when India was, when the whole television, India was getting used to the television culture. So Sachin's rise was like, we loved watching him bat, all right? That's one thing. By the time we came to Virat Kohli, we changed in our consumption of cricket. Now it's Crickbuzz and Cricinfo, all right? And we consume a lot of IPL, a lot of this and that. So Dhoni was possibly India's last mega TV cricket star, all right? So a lot of us saw that of Dhoni. I mean, a lot of us saw the rise of Dhoni on their television screens. Abhi kya hai, someone say Rishabh Pant plays a big innings. It's quite possible, the way things are, in the world currently, is that most of them would consume that innings through, their Cricinfo app, the Crickbuzz app. So they're not watching that. So Dhoni's playing style, for that particular reason, it is going to remain etched in the minds of a lot of people, because I feel he was the last major TV star as far as cricket is concerned. So that's a major impact. You have to go to any cricket stadium in the world, and just go to a match where Mahendra Singh Dhoni is involved, and you see the kind of cheer that he gets from people, the kind of love that he gets from people, and it doesn't matter which team he's playing on. So that is, for me, that is his legacy. That, forget the records, forget the numbers, forget the wins and losses as captain. He brought a lot of more people to cricket, all right? Just the way Sachin did, with his, absolutely, Sachin was a prodigy. Dhoni was not a prodigy. Dhoni is a beautiful story, right? Dhoni is a story of how unconventional someone can be and can still succeed, right? So that story has brought so many people to cricket. That story, I mean, so many people were interested in cricket because of Dhoni, right? So that is his legacy. That, for me, would be beyond these cups he won, beyond the runs he scored, that would be his major, stamp on Indian cricket.
Amit, if I have to look at it, I think that we can't simply say that we have to find a like-for-like replacement for Dhoni, be it Rishabh Pant, be it Dinesh Karthik, because I think whoever that may be, and even if he may be very, very talented in the case of Rishabh Pant, in that case, it would be too much of a pressure to put on that person to say that you have to be a mid-order batsman, you have to be a good wicket keeper, and even provide these strategies from behind the wicket, and be a personality as well to inspire other people. Like, I'm a Liverpool supporter, I support Liverpool Football Club, and I see similarities here with when Steven Gerrard left and Jordan Henderson was given the armband. And everyone was like, okay, Henderson has to live up to what Gerrard was. And Henderson initially said that I don't think I would ever be how great Gerrard was. It's just that we have to sort of remodel the way we have to look at, let's say, the position of the wicketkeeper and what we demand of it. And even as a batsman in that case.
True, very true. I completely agree to that. And just the point that I'm making is that, when Dhoni goes away, as he has walked off now, so there are multiple roles that we realize, oh shit, we do not have a replacement for, right? I mean, Dhoni, the wicketkeeper, might be replaced by a Karthik, or Dhoni, the batsman, might be replaced by a Pant. But there is so much that Dhoni, as with his presence, did on the cricket pitch, that will be missed. And we will have to, as a cricket team, we'll have to readjust our ways, to that void in the